Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson, tracking our snowfall event for today. And I want to talk about the latest when it comes to this forecast. A lot of people were concerned last night about snowfall totals because one of our very reliable models was showing maybe just a dusting for Hampton Roads, and it's still showing that, but it's an outlier compared to the rest. Now, it's still something that can take into consideration, especially because the high resolution rapid refresh is one of the best models. It's one of the models that I frequently reference because of how accurate it can be. So let's talk right now about what's the latest with this forecast. We'll have our weather impact alert in effect this afternoon. Snow is already ongoing right now in North Carolina. It will be ongoing later on today in Virginia, though we have had some snow reports of sporadic snow in places around the Virginia-North Carolina border on the Virginia side of things. Then we get into later on today, high winds and higher tides as well. We could see wind gusts today, especially late tonight and then early again tomorrow morning, as high as 50 to 60 miles per hour. Then on top of that, because we have northeast winds, we could have some moderate to major tidal flooding for the day tomorrow. But the big question that everyone's asking in this scenario, does the dry air infiltrate this system for the Virginia side of things and shut down snowfall totals? The high resolution rapid refresh thinks so. Other models think maybe not so much. What we do know right now is that the dry air will not be too much of a concern in places in northeastern North Carolina where we are still expecting at least 6 to 10 inches of snowfall. That is going to be the brunt of the winter storm for this system. Right now, and I'll show you with my clicker here, I am tracking this low pressure system, and right now it's just offshore. These double L's, 2 areas of low pressure. That's bringing in the snowfall for North Carolina and South Carolina and rainfall just offshore of the Outer Banks. We do have high pressure to the north. That difference between the pressure, the gradient, and especially as this system strengthens offshore, I'm watching for some very gusty winds. The tighter the pressure gradient, the stronger those winds are. So let's go ahead and look at what I'm seeing here from satellite and radar. Already right now, it seems like the actual radar and satellite is beating out the models. And I'll show you a look at what we call initialization, where we cross compare the radar to the actual forecast model and what they thought would happen at this moment. But let's go ahead and take a look at our satellite and radar now. We're going to start on the western south side. So you get to Emporia and Branchville and Boykins, and we're starting to see some snow flurries. I have had reports from Emporia and also just near places across the border in Murfreesboro where there had like some spits of snow here and there. So a few flurries and stopping, a few flurries and stopping. So that's over there as you get into just west of Sunbeam and then into Murfreesboro. We get to the rest of the south side, and now in Bear Quarter, getting close to Woodhouse Corner. So southern Chesapeake into portions of central and southern Virginia Beach, a couple of snow flurries. This is going to be one of those days where we are looking for snow reports. If you see any snowflakes, you don't have to even text or email a picture. What you can just do is email that you're seeing snow. Super, super helpful in this case, because sometimes when we do have snow falling, because of the way that radar beams work, it may be shooting up into the atmosphere at a very high angle, meaning that it's showing the snow is falling in the upper levels of the atmosphere. You head further down and the snow is starting to evaporate before it hits the ground. So I want to switch over for a second to our reflectivity. And it's actually showing more snow than the mosaic model of the satellite and radar combined. And we can see a pretty good band there, Long Ridge into Fentress, Hickory as well. I'm going to zoom in into some local roads so you can see maybe a little bit more of like where your house may be. This is near Fentress Airfield Road, Margaret Drive, Bellpage Avenue, up through that's I'm trying to read this way: Brittle Path Lane, Currituck Drive, West Neck Road. And then that takes us to the intersection of Chesapeake and Virginia Beach right there, around Dam Neck Corner, Woodhouse Corner, and then around Atlantic Avenue, but south of the main ocean front. So we're talking near Back Bay as well. So we need to get a few more storm reports, and by storm reports, that encompasses snow reports. So if you have any snow reports, definitely let me know. I'm gonna go over here and see if we have any so far, because we do have a little bit of a way to track like storm reports, which include snow. And so far right now, not seeing any. And I can also look, I have my radar app on my phone where users can actually show in their area, is it snowing, what it's doing right here. So this is going to be as you get closer, and I'm going to zoom it in here on the map so you can kind of see where I'm thinking. This is closer within the Hampton Roads loop. You can see here in portions of Portsmouth and Chesapeake, snow was falling there at the moment. This was around 7:47, so about 45 minutes ago. If we could take this graphic full, that would be great for just a moment. Thank you so much. So that's what we're seeing there. Then I'm going here down in my radar app to Suffolk, and this was near downtown. And it says also snowfall there as well. So we are seeing that too. Now, what's also a great thing about being here on stream is that we can also talk to our reporters, and we do have one reporter down in the Outer Banks right now. It's Layla Cox, and right now, Layla, I'm seeing on my radar that it is snowing for the majority of northeastern North Carolina, places around the Outer Banks and south the Albemarle. What are you seeing this morning?
Good morning, Taylor. Yeah, right now we're at Jeanette's Pier down in the Outer Banks. We've been here for the past few hours, and we're actually starting to see some of that snow that you've been seeing on the radar come down in this area. If you can just kind of see behind me, you can see kind of the precipitation, steadily falling down. It's minimal, but if you take a look at the ground below me, you can see that I know I'm not a meteorologist, but it seems to be kind of like solidified and sticking to the ground. I'm not sure if you would qualify this as hail, actually, Taylor. You give me that answer in a few moments. But yeah, aside from this snow precipitation that we're seeing take place now, the gusty winds have still been picking up along the course of the few hours that we've been here since around 6 o'clock this morning, and it's still really, 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 really cold. Aside from the couple we saw earlier walking their dogs, kind of enjoying the calm before the storm, we just spoke with two actually crew members who said they traveled from St. Louis, a 20-hour drive, including those pit stops for gas, of course, to get here in efforts along with other North Carolina service crews that are just trying to brace the storm and make sure everyone just stays safe. So they told us to stay safe and warm, and we told them to do as well, as a lot of essential personnel are going to be out across the Tar Heel State, making sure that they're prepared and ready to respond with any means necessary due to an increase of service calls that could possibly become because of these weather conditions we're seeing. Now, if you just take a look behind me, you'll see obviously we're here at the coast, and you can see the waves crashing in. If you can kind of look over to the side, you'll see they're crashing into the pier. But this is just kind of what we've been tracking for the past week or so. The snow accumulation is supposed to pick up within the next hours or so, especially overnight into tomorrow. Wind gusts are going to be very, very, very high. Taylor, you've been mentioning all morning, up to 60 miles per hour. And with this precipitation we're seeing now, it's like I showed you earlier, it's sticking to the ground because the ground is at freezing temperatures, and we're not going to see these temperatures reach above freezing till next week, which is why everyone is just being told to be cautious and stay off the roads, stay inside. And although the roads right now look good, that's because we've had crews like NCDOT and other localities salting and brining these roadways. But another major concern to keep in mind for those in these coastal low-lying areas is to make sure that you have everything that you need just in case these tidal floodings, although we have seen sand dunes, I showed you guys those earlier, although there are sand dunes to mitigate the possible flooding, as the system develops throughout the weekend, the possibility of your low-lying, home or car, it's best that you, move it up as much above ground as possible, or just kind of lock it in tight. I know our crews out here are going to be here all weekend tracking the coverage of this winter weather system throughout the rest of the week. So yeah, Taylor, that's really what we're seeing right now. Some precipitation falling, snow. It's solidifying onto the ground, which we'll kind of be tracking throughout the rest of the weekend. And yeah, we're excited to, see this snow out here. And although folks are inside, hopefully they're staying warm, but I can tell you 13 News Now will be out here all day today, tomorrow, and on Monday out here in the Outer Banks tracking the conditions of this storm. Again, North Carolinians are under a state of emergency, especially out here in Dare County, in these low-lying coastal areas. But be sure to stay with us here. I'll toss it back to you, Taylor. Layla Cox, 13 News Now.
Thanks for that report, Layla. I do want to keep you on camera just for a little bit of back and forth real quick. So I do want to make one distinction. It's not hail, and hail comes actually from severe thunderstorms. So completely different type of precipitation. What you're seeing is snow. That snow is actually accumulating right now. So you're seeing accumulating snow around the Outer Banks. As you said, the snow right now is sticking to the ground because it is below freezing. I want to ask you, just for my radar purposes, where are you in the Outer Banks? What city?
Yeah, so we're near Jeanette's Pier. I believe that's in Nag's Head. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have had some reports of people saying, like, a few areas in near Nag's Head we're seeing snow, and right now on my radar I am seeing near the Cape Hatteras, as you get closer to the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, we are seeing some snow there and snow where you are. It's really nice to have you down there. Last thing I will say, how have the winds been? Are they picking up or kind of holding steady?
So I can tell you, earlier when we got out here for, our first live hit around 6 o'clock this morning, the winds were really, 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 really strong. But I would have to say, as the sun, the sun rose and, now it's daytime, they aren't as strong as they were when the sun was down, but they are steady. It's very consistent. And my hair has been blowing back and forth, and you can see that it's causing the precipitation, the snow, to go all over the place. But yeah, definitely very, 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 very windy.
Perfect. I appreciate you for braving the cold for me, braving the snow, get some warmth, and we'll see you back here for the 11 a.m. stream. Thank you so much, Layla. So as Layla mentioned, she's down there near Nag's Head, and right now we are seeing some areas of snow. Even in Layla's live shot, you saw the snow flurries. As she said too, it's very windy, so the winds are whipping that snow all over the place. Kind of no rhyme or reason to how they'll fall, but that's showing that the snow is ongoing. And one of the things I wanted to mention was this is the area where we're not really seeing as much dry air, being able to limit those snowfall totals. So places around the Outer Banks, even as you head to the northern banks of the Albemarle and around the Currituck Sound, also seeing some snowfall now. Poplar Branch, Riddle, Goose Creek, Weeksville, down through Nixington, and also as you get closer to Eatonton as well. And we're seeing that snowfall continue, even a heavier band as you get through a Hosky. So for my friends who live in northeastern North Carolina, if you live in a Hosky, you live in Reynoldson, Cora Peak, I want to know if you are seeing snow at this point. It seems like a heavier band is ongoing now there in northeastern North Carolina. To zoom this all out to show you what our radar is showing us, a few flurries are also ongoing near portions of the eastern shore. Now, these flurries may be higher up in the atmosphere because this radar scan is kind of between two radars. You can see it switch over from there in Delaware, then back here from our radar back out in Wakefield at the National Weather Service office in Wakefield there. But again, for the south side, I am watching, and I'm also going to be checking for frequent updates on my phone. So if you see me look down my phone, it's just because I'm watching to see if people are sending some messages. I will say I got a message recently. Right now, let's see. And Nicole says her brother lives in Murfreesboro, North Carolina. And at the moment, let's see if I can pull up Murfreesboro here. You can see it on the map. Here we go. She's saying that the snow has started, but it's very, very tiny flakes, super tiny. And that's what we're expecting. It's all because we're expecting very fine snow from how cold it is. Temperatures in the teens and 20s lead to really high snow ratios, greater than our typical snow ratio of 10-1. And I'll show you a look at what snow ratios are for those who may not know what that means. So I'm going to go over here and pull up this graphic of snow ratios because it's kind of a fun thing to analyze. Now, snow ratios are all about relating the actual air temperature to the amount of moisture. So let's take this graphic full because it's kind of like cut off from my screen there. Thank you. So here's a look at snowfall ratios. And so we're just going to work with 1 inch of water for right now because it makes the math super simple. We may not have an inch of water to work with. We may just have a little bit less than an inch for today. But again, to keep math easy, we're going to do that. So if we had temperatures today, which is very unlikely, above freezing, we should be below freezing from today through tomorrow. Our snow ratios would be somewhere around 5-1. What that means is that for every 1 inch of water that's precipitable, or think about a rainy day, an inch of water would fall from the sky. If we were on a rainy day, we would have an inch of water. On a snowfall day, that 1 inch of water is then converted to 5 inches of snowfall. Typical snow ratios, that's going to be around 30 degrees. That's a 10-1 ratio, okay? That means for every 1 inch of water that's in the atmosphere, we get about 10 inches of snow. Our temperatures right now are in the teens and 20s. And so our snowfall ratio is way higher than the typical 10-1. It's probably more around 13 to 17 to 1, meaning for every 1 inch of water, you get about 13 to 17 inches. For the 5-1 ratio, the furthest left one, of temperatures just above freezing, that's a very heavy, wet snow. In the middle, typical snowfall ratio, 10-1, is going to be kind of that run-of-the-mill middle road. The reason why I say this is because our friend Nicole, whose brother lives in North Carolina and Murfreesboro, said that the snow is very tiny, very fine flakes. When you have snowfall ratios above 10-1, like we have today, you're going to get that dry, very fluffy, light snow. And that's what we're predicting, which makes the snowfall totals go actually even higher. So again, watching for snowfall here across the area. Snow is continuing in North Carolina. And for those who live in Hampton Roads and around the peninsula, snowfall is starting to build in. Again, I want to know some reports from those who are living around Bear Quarter, Fentress, Woodhouse Corner, and now even possibly a few snowflakes flying around the Virginia Beach oceanfront this morning. So lots of snow that we're tracking here. What I'm seeing and what I want to say is that this is actually good news if this snow is making it to the ground. Again, I would love to hear reports from Chesapeake and reports from Virginia Beach if possible, because sometimes the snow is falling, it evaporates, doesn't make it to the ground. If it's making it to the ground, that means the snow is overcoming that very dry air in the upper levels of the atmosphere, meaning that we could actually have the snowfall totals that we were predicting, anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of snowfall across the south side, instead of those limited totals that the high resolution rapid refresh was showing. So here's a look at the radar. We're going to go through a process which I call initialization. If y'all know me, and some of those who may be watching probably don't know me, and that's okay. You can get to know me now. I am basically, I call myself Taylor the teacher. I don't like to do meteorology where I just throw out a bunch of big words and nobody ever understands what I'm saying. What I love about being a broadcast meteorologist is that I know the big words, but I also know how to speak in layman's terms. So those big words get crunched down into words that you can understand. So the word I'm teaching you today is initialization. What that means is that we're cross-comparing the radar to what our forecast model is showing at the moment. So I want to show you, before we get into our watches and warnings, I want to show you the initialization of this radar. So here's what radar is doing right now, showing snowfall, some heavy at times in Ahoskie, a lot of snowfall coming through, widespread through northeast North Carolina, and a few flurries around the south side. This is what the graph model has for right now. what it's saying that it's picking up in its forecast model. Significantly underperforming when it comes to this forecast model. I also want to show you the high resolution rapid refresh in the same terms when it comes to the initialization of this model. So the graph not doing too well when it comes to actually picking up what's happening right now. The high resolution rapid refresh is terrible. Horrible when it comes to what's happening right now, significantly underperforming of what the snowfall is happening right now. So that being said, it seems like we're on the positive side of things when it comes to higher snowfall totals than predicted from these models, because the snow is already falling. And once the snow falls, it's called a transfer of latent heat, meaning that as the snow falls, it's actually going to cool the air around it. So even if we have some maybe borderline temperatures in the upper levels, which looks unlikely, it actually will help to cool the air as well. It also will add some more moisture to the air as it evaporates, and so that will help to alleviate that dry air we have in the upper levels as well. So that being said, we may be on the right track when it comes to snowfall totals later on today. Okay, before we get into the forecast track, I want to tell you about the watches and warnings we're seeing here around our area. Now, compared to last weekend's winter storm, which some people may argue with me, Taylor, it really wasn't a winter storm. I get it. We didn't get as much snowfall as we initially thought from days ahead of the storm. Let's also be grateful here in Hampton Roads that we didn't get the brunt of the ice, because there are places around the deep south into the northeast that have so much ice they have had to cancel school for the full week. People don't have power. Let's be grateful and not doomcast. That's what I call doomcasting. You wish for the worst. We don't do that here. We're just trying to prepare you. It's always better to be prepared, not scared, and be prepared for a winter storm and then have to draw it back than to say, oh, nothing's going to happen. Y'all say that all the time. And then something actually does happen, and then we're a little bit more chaotic than we would have been if we would have just told you the get-go. So that being said, this winter storm is not as widespread. The last one spread from New Mexico through the deep south, up the East Coast, all the way to Maine. Multi-state weather threat with winter storm warnings for millions of people, cold weather warnings for hundreds of millions of people. This winter storm will be confined to the deep south. We're talking Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Both of those states are all under winter storm warnings here. Now, as we go throughout Hampton Roads, and we're going to take this graphic full so you can see the big picture real quick. Winter storm warnings continue for the area for Hampton Roads in northeastern North Carolina. As we progress through the day today, these winter storm warnings will still hold through the weekend. That's because we are projecting accumulating snow in these areas, 3 to 4 inches of snow. In the purple color, I am watching for some of those winter weather advisories. That means we could have accumulating snow, but it won't be something that will really disrupt too much travel in those areas. That's from Richmond up through the northern neck and then out into central Virginia. Now, the next thing I'm watching in terms of our alerts for today, we are talking gusty winds. Layla already talked to us earlier. Very gusty winds early this morning, kind of tapered off there near Nags Head there later on over the course of the past about 3 hours. But the winds will only pick up as that low pressure system strengthens and deepens offshore of the Outer Banks later on today and tonight. We do have high wind warnings in the purple color for the eastern shore, portions of the Middle Peninsula, portions of the peninsula, for the eastern south side, down through the Currituck Sound, and including the Outer Banks. In those colors, in the pink, in the purple, pinkish purple, fuchsia, whatever you want to call it, 50 to up to 60 mile per hour winds. In the tan color, that's portions of the northern neck, portions of the Middle Peninsula, portions of the peninsula, central south side, down through central northeastern North Carolina and south the Albemarle. Wind gusts up to about 30 to 40 miles per hour. So breezy further inland, very windy next to the coast. But again, near the Outer Banks, especially Kildeville Hills, down through Nags Head and Rodanthe, wind gusts could be as high as 50 to 60 miles per hour. So that's a look at those warnings. Here's the last set of, well, a couple of last set of warnings, because we also have an extreme cold warning in effect for tonight for those feels like temperatures 0 or below. We're talking -1 to 2 to 3 degrees for feels like temperatures tonight into tomorrow morning. So an extreme cold watch is in effect for tonight with a cold weather advisory in effect for tomorrow. For coastal flood alerts, we have the potential, because this is technically a nor'easter with those northeast winds, that could pull in higher tides, especially tomorrow morning. So we do have a coastal flood warning in effect for the eastern south side, especially those areas that are facing Bayside or facing Atlantic side. We also have coastal flood warning in effect for the southern eastern shore. We have a coastal flood advisory for the tip of the peninsula, also as you head into the central south side. We also have a coastal flood alert advisory for the northern eastern shore. Let's go ahead and take this graphic full while I go ahead and get some water very quickly. When you're talking forever, sometimes you gotta get that sip of water just so I can keep going. So thank you for being a little bit patient with me. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the timing, because that's what most people want to know here when it comes to the snowfall. Again, snow already overperforming our models at hand. So kind of take this model with a little bit of a grain of salt and kind of fill in the gaps. And I'll show you where to fill in those gaps right now. I am watching for snowfall. If my clicker will show, okay, snowfall is already going all the way through here, and we're seeing some streams up through the south side already. So again, the graph model is not really performing as well as it could in terms of what we're seeing currently. Taking you through around 10 a.m., snow continues to build in from south to north. So that means that today the peninsulas will be on the other side of the script. Usually peninsulas, we see the most snowfall when most winter storms coming through your area. This time it's flipped. So northeastern North Carolina will see the brunt of the snow. We'll see some snow around the south side, and then the further north you go, the lower those snowfall totals will be. Also, the higher the amount of dry air is in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. By noon to 1 p.m., I've had a lot of questions about when the snow will start for Hampton Roads. For the south side, this is your target time, around noon to 1 for the snow to start. You get to the peninsulas, look how far and how sharp that drop off is between have and have-nots. Okay, so if you live near Chincoteague, Tappahannock, West Point, don't really get too caught up on seeing much accumulating snow. You may get a dusting. That's about it. You head to the south side, that's where we can see some heavier bands. This is around 6:45 to 7 p.m. tonight. We can see some heavier bands there. Down in northeastern North Carolina, the heaviest snow will fall right around the evening time through the overnight. It also will be super windy. Wind gusts area wide at least 35 to 40 miles per hour around the Outer Banks. Look how fast these arrows are going. That could be up to about 50 to possibly some isolated 60-mile-per-hour gusts. We will see maybe the snow line starting to head a little further north as we get to late tonight, right around 11 p.m., but that will be very short-lived. The other question that we may get a lot from this system, will we see sleet? Will we see freezing rain? Will we see rain? With this event, this will be an all snow event, which is good because last time we had the snowfall, last weekend, we had snowfall, and then because the rain came through, it melted the snow and washed it away. So whereas any snow that is going to be on the ground will stick around for a minute. Then we get to early tomorrow morning. Look how quickly this snow shield retreats back to sea. This is around 5:15, 5:30 tomorrow morning. And it will be a very cold day with those north winds still gusting up to about 30 to 40 miles per hour. But the snow continues for northeastern North Carolina through the early morning before pulling well offshore by 8 to 9 a.m. on your Sunday. Now, as we head throughout the day on Sunday, look how temperatures struggle to climb. By the time we get into the afternoon, highs will be at best in the upper 20s for the south side. And then for northeastern North Carolina, maybe some places scraping into the 30s. That's what I'm saying. Any snow that falls will stick. The other problem is, once we finally get above freezing during the work week, our overnight temperatures will be back in the teens and 20s. Any slushiness will refreeze, melt, refreeze again. So we have the potential of seeing some icy conditions over the course of the next 6 to 7 days. Right now, here's the question that everybody's asking. Will the dry air create a forecast bust? What that means is the dry air may come in and be so strong that the moisture influx from the low pressure system at the surface and the low pressure system above the surface may not be able to pull in enough moisture to overcome that limited air that may be much drier than expected and much deeper in the atmosphere than expected. So here's a look at 3 models, and I'll show you the high resolution rapid refresh after this. The North American model, the NAM, shows 4 to 8 inches on the south side. It shows a dusting for places around the Middle Peninsula, and then you head to Newport News, and it shows up to 4 inches. This is going to be, we already know, this will be a very sharp drop-off around the peninsulas. We already knew that. That's not the question. The question is, will there be too much dry air on the south side to see some of these totals? The North American model says 4 to 8 inches. South of the Virginia-North Carolina border, anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of snow. Then you get to the American model. The American model, which hasn't really performed very well, shows a dusting for Richmond through the eastern shore, maybe 1 inch to 3 inches for the peninsulas down to the south side, and then for northeastern North Carolina, anywhere from 4 to about 9 inches of snow. The further south you go, the higher the totals. We know that. The further north you go, the lower the totals. We know that. The question area is right around the south side. European model actually says more than the American model or the GFS model, and it shows 2 to 4 to possibly as high as 5 inches of snowfall on the south side. You get to northeastern North Carolina, and we see around 5 to maybe 7 inches of snowfall there. So lower total south, but still a pretty good accumulation of snow for the south side. Then you have the high resolution rapid refresh, which is already, like I showed you, not initializing well, right? Because it showed rain in the area of the Outer Banks and no snowfall anywhere. The high resolution rapid refresh shows that we may see 1 inch of snowfall for the south side, maybe a dusting. Now, what I will say is, I'm just realizing this is the newest run of the high resolution rapid refresh. Just about an hour ago, maybe less, an hour ago, this showed 1/10 of an inch of snowfall for the south side, well, specifically for Norfolk. So the high resolution rapid refresh is actually accounting in the new models and new updates of the models, new runs, that the dry air may not be as deep and as potent as we thought it may be with this model solution. So that being said, our confidence for accumulating snowfall on the south side has definitely risen since this morning, as the high resolution rapid refresh is showing that accumulations may be 1 inch or 2 higher than previously projected last night and early this morning. So that's really, really good news for us, as of course we want to make sure that we are giving you the most accurate information here at 13 News Now with accumulating snowfall across the south side. And then for northeastern North Carolina, anywhere from about 2 to 8 inches of snowfall, very big ranges. I don't think that's fairly accurate because Elizabeth City should be way higher than that. But again, good improvement. We like to see it. We like to see the models come into agreement. The more agreement the models have, the higher the confidence is in the forecast. Okay, so that being said, what is 13 News Now proposing? Here is our snowfall outlook for this weekend. A trace maybe up to 1 inch of snowfall for most of the peninsulas through the Richmond metro area. That was to be expected. You get to the south side, it gets a little bit dicey. Remember, I was telling you there's a sharp drop off in those snowfall totals right about here from about Hampton and Newport News down through Norfolk and heading into southern Chesapeake. That is a very large drop off. What we do know is that the highest snowfall totals will be around northeastern North Carolina. We can see up to 6 to 10 inches of snowfall there. Near the border, we could see maybe up to 6 inches of snow. We have the greatest risk for dry air to limit snowfall totals in this area within this yellow dotted messed up oval in this area. It's kind of a bean shape. That's where dry air could infiltrate the system and limit snowfall totals. Remember that the air has to be moist enough to allow for the snowfall to fall to the ground without evaporating first. So it's possible in places like Norfolk and northern Chesapeake, near the bay side of Virginia Beach, through Suffolk and out through Emporia, that snowfall totals may be a little bit more limited. But again, as I just showed you the high resolution rapid refresh, it's showing an inch or more in terms of snowfall totals compared to what it showed this morning. And again, both the high resolution rapid refresh and the graph model are not picking up on the snowfall already occurring here in southeastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. So I think that we'll be on the pretty good side of things. I still think that we should see at least 3 to 4 inches of snowfall on the south side. And again, it gets significantly lower as you head north. Okay, that is what I'm looking for in terms of the snowfall. Let's go ahead and talk about the winds, because winds will be another issue that we're dealing with for today into tomorrow. So here's this morning, wind gusts anywhere from 15 to 25 miles per hour, especially the highest wind gusts will be around northeastern North Carolina. You head throughout the day today and you start to see the wind gusts pick up. Anywhere around 7 p.m., wind gusts 25 to 30 miles per hour inland, around the coast 30 to 45 miles per hour. Tomorrow morning, winds get even gustier. This is around 6:30 a.m. where this coincides with our high tides tomorrow. Wind gusts out of the north to north-northwest, anywhere from 35 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour inland, and then 35 to 55 miles per hour around the coast. That is why we have that high wind warning and the coastal flood warnings as well. Then later on Sunday, winds will back off just a little bit, but still breezy. Wind gusts as high as 25 to 35 to 40 miles per hour area wide. So it will be a cold, windy day, but those north to northeast and northwest winds, however those winds start to turn, will start to bring in some higher tides. And so here's a look at the tidal predictions for tomorrow morning. Peak tides around the area. Sewell's Point, moderate tidal flooding is possible, especially in those low-lying and poor drainage areas around Sewell's Point. This is around 8:35 tomorrow morning. For the Lynnhaven Inlet, major flood stage is possible tomorrow around 8:23 a.m. For Yorktown, not that big of an issue. That's why you have a coastal flood advisory instead of a coastal flood warning in that area, where we're expecting nuisance flood stage at best around 8:34 in the morning. Then you get to Duck Pier, where around the Outer Banks, they're the closest to that center of low pressure. Winds will be the gustiest. Major flood stage is possible tomorrow just before 7 a.m. So if you live in low-lying, poor drainage areas, be super careful. Also, I am watching for some higher wave and surf heights, so I want to pull that up. We're going to type in the Virginia Beach marine forecast. And give me 1 second as I do this. This is why I love streaming, because on a typical day, I couldn't just, type in stuff and look it up just in the moment. But it's nice to be able to do that here. So for the Chesapeake Bay through the CBBT, or the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, I can find it here. So we do have a small craft advisory in effect for this evening, and then a storm warning, which is a step up from a gale warning that's in effect through this evening through Sunday afternoon. Today we'll see waves in the bay 5 to 8 feet. Again, we'll see the potential for some light freezing spray as that cold air kind of sprays the water from kind of like a misty type feel from the bay. That's for the bay. For the Virginia Beach coastline down through the Virginia-North Carolina border, we could see seas 5 to 6 feet, occasionally up to 9 feet, and then it will build up to 6 to 8 feet, occasionally with a 12-foot chop. So very, very choppy waters today. And again, freezing spray, again, possible in the bay. Don't really see that advisory, though, for the Atlantic. But what the Weather Service is saying is there's a chance of snow over the water later this morning, and then it's going to build throughout the afternoon, where that we could see visibility 1 nautical mile or less. We are not going to be, as far as we know, and meteorologist Evan Stewart talked to the National Weather Service yesterday. They are not going to put us, as we know so far, in a blizzard warning. But because of the gusty winds and the snow coming down, we could have visibility very low. And that's why I'm encouraging everyone to stay at home if you can for today. So to give you a kind of overview of what I'm expecting for today in terms of our weather impact alert for this weekend storm threat. Today and tomorrow, snow is already ongoing in North Carolina. Snow will begin around the south side later on around lunchtime today for the peninsulas later on this afternoon. Main impacts: snow, high winds, and high tides. What you need to do is limit your travel for today. I want to give you one last look at the radar before we wind down this portion of the stream. I will be streaming again in just about 2 hours at 11 a.m. and we hope to have reporter Layla Cox back again to see the conditions as they progress throughout the morning. But here's a look at satellite and radar, and I'll take off the surface map to not kind of add distractions. But you can see the snow is ongoing in North Carolina and making it to portions of the south side. Putting on your reflectivity, just the base radar, and you can see the snow is encompassing most of northeastern North Carolina. A few isolated flurries for the south side and the eastern shore. Again, snow will continue to become more widespread later on today. Accumulating snow is likely, and with the forecast model starting to show ticks up in the snowfall accumulation, there's a pretty good chance we'll see some good accumulating snow. Again, for the south side, while we're in that area that may see a little bit of dry slots, we should see at least, I'm thinking, 2 to 4 inches of snow, but it could be higher if the trend that we're seeing now continues and the snow is beating out that dry air. For your 5 to 7 day forecast, we're underneath the weather impact alert starting at noon all the way through the day on Sunday. For accumulating snow, high winds, high tides, and freezing cold air. Wind gusts tonight will be as high as about 50 to 60 miles per hour. Feels like temperatures tonight into tomorrow morning, 0 or below. We won't get above freezing until we get to Monday afternoon, and that's barely. So any snow that sticks on the ground will stay here for a moment. And if anything melts on Monday and into Tuesday, has the possibility of refreezing again. Temperatures will be near or below freezing each and every morning for the next 7 days. Highs at best this week will be in the mid-40s. That's still about 5 to 10 degrees below normal for this time of year. So a very cold start to your February. And then we'll be looking ahead to the end of the work week where we may have our next chance for maybe a rain-snow mix. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson. And for more on the forecast, head to 13newsnow.com. I'll be back here on 13 News Now Plus and your 13 News Now app, streaming at 11 a.m. for the latest updates on this weekend winter storm. For now, have a great day. Stay safe, stay off the roads, and stay warm.